You might think that to hurt a narcissist, you need to confront them, expose the truth, or speak your mind. But that's not what truly breaks them. What truly dismantles their control isn't your anger, it's your absence. It's when you stop reacting, stop playing the game they've always rigged in their favor. Narcissists thrive on control. They craft a script where you're always the weaker one, always needing them, always coming back, no matter how much they've hurt you. In their minds, you can't leave because you never had the power. But then one day you walk away, not out of revenge, not to prove a point, but because you're done. You choose silence not out of weakness, but because you no longer care to explain yourself. You no longer need their validation. And most importantly, you're no longer afraid of losing them. That's when their world begins to collapse. The supply vanishes, the script falls apart, the control evaporates. And what terrifies them the most isn't that you left, it's that they can't come back. You've locked the door, thrown away the key, and taken away the one thing they feared losing access to you. In today's video, we're diving deep into the psychology of what happens inside a narcissist when you go full no contact. Why does it shake them more than any confrontation? And why is no contact the quiet but powerful weapon you didn't even know you had? Don't forget to hit subscribe and turn on notifications because what you're about to discover might be the beginning of your true freedom, your healing, and the life you were meant to live. One of the most powerful effects of going no contact with a narcissist is that it cuts off the very thing they crave the most narcissistic supply. It's not love they seek, it's not connection, it's the emotional energy you once unknowingly provided, the reactions, the attention, the chaos that kept their inflated self-image alive. While you were still in the relationship, you may not have realized how much of yourself was being drained. Every time you cried, explained, got angry, or tried to fix things, they took it as evidence that they still had power over you, that you still cared, that they still mattered. To them, your pain was proof of their significance, and that was their supply. Narcissists don't love the way you do. They don't want partnership. They want emotional fuel. Every intense reaction you gave them, whether positive or negative, fed their need to feel important. So when you go silent, when you walk away and stop engaging, you cut the cord to the very lifeline they depend on. Imagine being the only power source lighting up a dark room. Every message, every outburst, every tearful plea you gave was like a flicker of electricity keeping that space alive. But then suddenly you unplug, and the room returns to what it really is, cold, empty, and void of reflection. In that moment, the narcissist doesn't just lose you, they lose the mirror that made them feel real. Narcissists can't sustain a sense of identity without someone reflecting it back to them. They need you to be upset so they can feel in control. They need you to be heartbroken so they can feel superior. They need you to be emotionally entangled so they can feel powerful. But when you step away, you shatter the mirror they rely on to see themselves. So what happens when a narcissist no longer has access to anyone to manipulate? They panic. Not always in obvious ways. Sometimes it looks like indifference, detachment, or cold silence. But don't be fooled. Inside, they're unraveling, because they are being forced to face the one thing they've been running from their entire lives: invisibility. In their world, if you're no longer reacting, they no longer exist. And that triggers a deep crisis of self-worth that they've spent their entire lives burying under charm, arrogance, and control. Here's the paradox. As much as they may have devalued you, they always needed you to validate them. It's tragic, really. You may have thought they were strong, untouchable, always in control. But the truth is, they're so fragile that they need your emotional reactions just to feel real. You were their fuel, their reflection, their emotional anchor, whether you knew it or not. And when you stop giving that, they're left facing themselves, no stage, no audience, no script. What's left is a hollow shell, desperate for significance, but with no way to get it anymore. They feel small, insignificant, out of control. And for a narcissist, that's a nightmare with no escape. So if you've ever felt guilty for going no contact, if you've ever wondered whether your silence is too harsh, remember this: you didn't do it to hurt them. You did it to survive. You are not obligated to be their emotional supply. You are not a mirror for their fractured ego. You are a human being with boundaries, with value, and with the right to say enough and walk away from a game that was never meant to end. And in the moment you stop engaging, when you stop feeding the cycle, you begin the most important journey of all. The journey back to yourself. And when you refuse to play the role they scripted for you, you're not just reclaiming your freedom, you're dismantling the entire world they tried to control. And that is exactly what we're going to explore in this next part. Narcissists don't just thrive on control, they live by the script. In their minds, every relationship is a stage play where they are the writer, the director, and of course the main character. They predict your reactions like pre-written lines. You get angry, they win. You beg, they win. You endure, they still win. To them, you're not a person. You're a supporting role meant to make their greatness stand out. And when they leave or force you to leave, they already have a narrative in mind. Part of them expects you to fall apart. They imagine you crying, reaching out, sending long emotional messages, or crawling back for forgiveness. Even if they're no longer in your life, they still want you to suffer for them. That's how they continue to feel in control. But then, you do nothing. You don't call. You don't apologize. You don't plead. You disappear from the stage quietly, completely. And in that moment, the entire script they'd written collapses. They don't know how to respond. They spiral into confusion and inner chaos. Not because they lost you, but because they lost their role in your story. There's no one left to highlight their false greatness. No more emotional reactions to fuel their performance. No more audience. In a world that revolves around image and dominance, being stripped of the lead role is a complete collapse. No one expects the movie to end before the climax, but you did something they never saw coming. You rewrote the ending on your own terms. And the most terrifying part for them, they can't control your story anymore. When you stop playing, they stop existing in your world. And that for a narcissist, someone who needs to be seen, heard, desired is unacceptable. So they fall back into their usual tactics. Coldness turning to rage, blame turning to victimhood. They might try to reconnect sometimes with fake sweetness, other times with guilt-tripping cruelty. But it's never about healing. It's about getting their role back. The more silent you are, the more panicked they become. Not because they love you, but because they can't stand that the script is no longer theirs. And here's what you must remember. Every reaction you give them now is a line of dialogue they're trying to pull from you. Every time you respond, you give them another scene. Every time you confront them, you hand them back the stage. That's why your silence isn't just withdrawal. It's a full rewrite of the narrative, and for the first time, you're the author. For the first time, you're no longer a supporting role in someone else's play. You are the writer, and you have every right to craft an ending that no longer revolves around them. Remember this: narcissists manipulate by predicting your reactions. They fine-tune their words, their behavior, even their silence, as long as you're still playing within the boundaries they understand. But when you go quiet, disappear, and give them nothing, you've stepped off the map they use to control you. And for a narcissist, not knowing equals not being able to control. Not being able to control equals a direct threat to the psychological framework they rely on to survive. They start to ask themselves a flood of questions. Are you seeing someone else? What are you telling people about them? Are you planning to expose them? Or worse, are you living your life peacefully without ever thinking about them again? These questions aren't rooted in love. They stem from a terror of losing influence. Narcissists can't tolerate the idea of you being an unknown, a person who is now independent, unpredictable, and outside their grasp. That's why no contact isn't just physical distance. It's a psychological threat they can't decode. And when they can't decode you, they'll try everything to pull you back in. Not because they love you, but because the thought of permanently losing their grip on you terrifies them. But they won't always show that panic in obvious ways. Not yet. They know that if they want to pull you back in, they can't use domination or rage. Not at this point. They have to switch roles. And this time the role is the remorseful one. It might catch you off guard. Maybe it's a gentle text, a sudden emotional phone call, maybe even a handwritten letter where they claim they've woken up, realize their mistakes, and say that no one has ever loved them like you did. They apologize. They say they've thought deeply about everything, that losing you was the worst thing that's ever happened to them. It sounds sincere. It may even sting your heart because this is what you once hoped to hear, a real admission, a tear of regret. But pause, take a deep breath, and see it for what it truly is. This isn't remorse. It's a tactic. The narcissist isn't sorry for how much they hurt you. They're sorry because they've lost access to you. They don't regret what they did. They're upset that they no longer have control. Their sudden remorse is not a change of heart. It's a strategic move because they sense that you're getting stronger, you're learning to live without them, you're healing. And if you fully exit the role they scripted for you, they no longer have a function. So they perform not to earn forgiveness, but to pull you back into the script. Their apologies usually come wrapped in lines like, "I know I messed up, I was just hurting back then. No one gets me the way you do. I'm willing to go to therapy, to change, to do whatever it takes to win you back." They might even shed tears, appear drained, open up about their painful past. It's all designed to tap into your empathy, that soft part of you that's always cared, always hoped, always forgave. But here's the truth. Real remorse is shown in consistent action, not emotional outbursts. Narcissists aren't interested in facing the darkness inside them. They're interested in reclaiming their position in your life. If you believe them, if you open the door, if you give them another chance, they may be sweet for a while, until they feel your trust has returned. And then the cycle begins again. Manipulation, blame, silent punishment, deception. Only this time the wound cuts deeper because you betrayed your own intuition to let them back in. Fake remorse is one of the most dangerous tactics in the narcissist's playbook because it targets the most vulnerable part of you, the belief that people can change if they're given enough love and chances. But here's what you need to understand. Narcissists don't crave love. They crave power. And when they say they're sorry, they're not reaching for healing, they're reaching for control. Remember, forgiveness is a noble act, but forgiveness does not mean you have to invite them back into the story of your life. And when they realize that their fake remorse no longer moves you, they'll switch to a role that's even more dangerous. The poor, helpless victim. You may think narcissists always play from a position of power, arrogant, controlling, cold. But one of their most effective masks isn't dominance at all. It's calculated vulnerability. When you stop responding, stop returning, and no longer fall for their hollow apologies, they know that pretending to be strong no longer works. That's when they change strategies. They begin telling the story from the opposite angle, that they were the true victim in the relationship. You'll start to hear lines like, "I've been hurting so much, but no one understands. I tried everything, but you were just too cold. I lost everything after you walked away." They'll put the spotlight on their pain, maybe insomnia, depression, loneliness, or even more extreme emotional threats, all designed to trigger your guilt. Because they know you once cared, you once softened, you once sacrificed. This playing the victim tactic is especially effective on empaths. If you're someone who always wants to help to heal others, who feels responsible for someone else's pain, then you're the perfect target for this performance. But be careful. This isn't authentic pain-seeking healing. This is manufactured suffering designed to manipulate. Narcissists refuse to take responsibility for the damage they cause, but they're experts at portraying themselves as the wounded party to blur the lines and deflect accountability. They might tell you heartbreaking stories about their family, their childhood, or past sorrows they've never shared before. You'll feel like you're seeing the most honest and vulnerable version of them. But remember, if these stories conveniently surface right when you're getting stronger and more independent, chances are this isn't sincere sharing, but an emotional lever. Their goal isn't for you to understand them. Their goal is to confuse you about your decision. They want you to second-guess leaving. They want you to feel like your silence, your boundaries make you the cruel one. And if they fall apart, it's somehow your fault. From manipulator to martyr, they flip the narrative. And if you're not alert, you'll fall into the guilt trap they've carefully constructed and hand them back the control you fought so hard to take away. The truth is, real pain doesn't need to be performed to be valid. Someone who's truly healing will respect your boundaries, work on their inner self, and won't use weakness as a tactic to pull you back. Narcissists don't play fair. They will use anything to regain power, including tears. But tears aren't always truth. Sometimes they're props in a carefully calculated act. And if pretending to be weak no longer softens you, if you remain firm in your boundaries and don't return, then the narcissist will reveal their true face. They're no longer trying to win you back through emotion. Now they begin trying to destroy you from the outside. One of the most toxic and ruthless tactics a narcissist may use after you've gone silent is a smear campaign to ruin your reputation. When they can no longer control you directly, they shift their focus to controlling how others see you. At this point, the goal is no longer to get you back. It's to punish you for daring to leave, for stepping out of the script they tried to trap you in. The narcissist will go from person to person, mutual friends, colleagues, even your own family members, to tell a version of the story that paints them in a favorable light. And in their narrative, you are the villain, cold, selfish, disloyal, or even emotionally unstable. You may hear or later find out they've said things like, "I did everything I could, but they were just too toxic. I never spoke up before, but I was deeply hurt in that relationship. I don't know how they changed so quickly. It's like they never really loved me." At first, you'll be shocked. These are words coming from someone who once held you in tears, who once claimed to love you more than anyone ever could. Now they're systematically destroying your image with calculated, cold precision. Why do they do this? Because you did the one thing that to them is unforgivable. You're thriving without them, and that threatens their entire sense of power. Since they can't control you anymore, they'll try to regain control of the narrative by turning you into the bad guy in the eyes of others. This is a strategic form of social revenge. They won't scream or throw things. Instead, they whisper. They speak in hushed tones, feigning sadness and concern to win sympathy. And they know exactly who to target: your close friends, the people you trust most, to isolate you and fracture the support around you. The goal: to make you feel alone, to make you question yourself, to make you feel like you've lost your foundation, and eventually, to break you down just enough that they can re-enter your life as the one holding the power again. So what should you do? Don't respond impulsively. Don't rush to defend yourself everywhere. Don't fall into the trap of public confrontation. Narcissists are masters at flipping the script, making you the one defending yourself look like the aggressor in the eyes of outsiders. Instead, let your actions and consistency speak for themselves. The people who are wise enough will see the truth behind the performance, and those who are easily manipulated, they're not worth your peace of mind. The truth is, your reputation might be shaken for a moment, but your integrity will speak louder over time. Don't let the narcissist drag you into the swamp they're drowning in.
And always remember this. When they start attacking your reputation, it's not because you're weak, it's because you've become too strong to control. And when the smear campaign still doesn't bring you back, when you stay silent, grounded, and continue living well, the narcissist will pull out their final weapon. Not remorse, not suffering, but a calculated storm of sweetness, fake love.
I miss you. No one ever made me feel whole the way you did. I can't live without you. If you've ever received words like these after all the harm, manipulation, and reputation attacks, please stay alert, because chances are this isn't love returning. It's hoovering. Hoovering, just like a vacuum, is the act of sucking you back in. Not to clean up the mess, but to pull you right back into the same old position, the one where they had control. When every other tactic has failed, when fake remorse didn't work, when playing the victim didn't move you, when their character assassination couldn't shake your ground, they reach for the one thing that once made you fall for them: romance. The narcissist will begin reactivating those beautiful memories. They may show up out of nowhere right when you're feeling emotionally vulnerable. They'll send messages, flowers, heartfelt notes, remind you of sweet memories and better times. And then they'll say things like, "I finally realized you're the one. Can we start over? This love deserves another chance." It all sounds real, so real, because they know exactly what you once longed to hear. They know you once dreamed of the day they'd change, and now they're back as if they've changed for good. But the truth is, they're not coming back because they love you. They're coming back because they miss the feeling of power over you. Hoovering isn't healing. It's a continuation of the manipulation cycle. When they sense you've gotten too far out of their reach, when they can no longer access your mind or emotions, they use love as bait to reel you back in, not to rebuild, but to regain control. And here's the scariest part: if you go back, there might not be the usual gaslighting, criticism, or coldness, at least not right away. This time they'll play the role of the perfect partner. They'll make you believe maybe this time really is different. But once they're sure they've pulled you fully back into the old dynamic, the mask will fall. The coldness returns, the blame creeps back in, the same manipulative cycle begins all over again. Except this time you'll feel a deeper kind of pain, not just from them, but from betraying your own intuition, your decision, your boundaries. You'll feel hurt not just by them, but by yourself. So when they suddenly come back, ask yourself, does this love come with consistent actions and real change? Has anyone truly transformed just through words alone? And most importantly, is this love? Or is it just a fear of seeing you free? A narcissist doesn't love you the way you understand love. They love the feeling of having you. They love the power to control you. And if you've already broken free from that cycle, don't let sweet words pull you back into a beautiful cage with no way out. And when fake love can no longer pull you back, when you've grown too clear-minded to fall for sweet words that come without real action, the narcissist will resort to one final tactic, bringing in someone new to hurt you. Suddenly you see them hand in hand with another person. They post affectionate photos, share romantic public captions, and drop subtle hints about how wonderful their new partner is. You feel confused. You feel hurt. You wonder, did they really move on that quickly? Did they change for this new person? Was I just a bad chapter in their story? Stop. Don't fall into the trap. This isn't about new love. This is triangulation,
a toxic emotional manipulation tactic narcissists use to provoke jealousy, insecurity, and feelings of inferiority. This new person isn't their true love. The new person is a tool, a stage prop, a mirror reflecting the pain they want you to feel. Their goal isn't genuine happiness. Their goal is to make you question your worth, to make you think, maybe I was the problem, to hurt you just enough that you react, because once you react, they're back in control. If you message them, express hurt, or try to prove you're better than the new person, they win. You've been pulled back into the role of the emotionally controlled. Look closely at this new relationship. Everything happens too fast, seems too perfect, too public, a carbon copy of what they once did to you during the love bombing phase. Because this isn't real love, it's a performance staged for you to see. And if you're thinking the new person will be treated better, that they won't suffer what you did, remember you were once the special one too. The cycle hasn't changed. Only the character has. Worse yet, if the new person is someone you know, someone close to you, this adds another layer of toxicity. Now, it's not just about hurting you. It's about making you feel betrayed, isolated, stripped of confidence and trust. So what should you do? Don't react. Don't mirror. Don't engage. Keep living your life. Keep healing. Stay proud. Because your calm silence is something they can't manipulate, and it's what drives them insane. They may change roles. They may switch stages. But without an audience, the show ends. Let them perform. And you keep living your truth. Maybe you're standing at the crossroads between longing and logic. Maybe on quiet nights you still ask yourself, what if they've changed? Maybe I was too harsh. Don't they deserve another chance? But please don't go back. Not because you're cruel, not because you're unforgiving, but because you've heard enough to know one truth. If you go back, the script will repeat every scene, every cycle, every wound. Narcissists don't change when you leave. They change strategies. At first, they'll be sweeter, softer. They'll make you feel like this time is different. They'll apologize with a voice so sincere it feels warm through the screen. They'll tell you they've seen the light, that you're the one, that life is empty without you. And part of you might want to believe it, because you once loved them, because you once thought if I love hard enough, they'll change. So you go back. At first, everything feels calm, even sweeter than the beginning. You feel relief, hope. You think maybe, just maybe, you were right to give them another chance. But then, a cold remark, a silent punishment, a glance of contempt, a blame-shifting phrase, a little manipulation sharp as a blade. And suddenly you realize you're back in the maze, being led by confusion, held hostage by emotional unpredictability, and once again asking yourself, am I the problem? You start apologizing for things you didn't do. You shrink yourself to avoid triggering their moods. You tiptoe around them to keep the peace. You smile while trembling inside. And slowly, you begin to disappear. You've been here before. You've cried in the bathroom so quietly no one would hear. You've bent your self-worth just to keep something that was already breaking you. And then you left. You gathered the courage to walk away. You started to heal. You began to hear your own voice again. You tasted peace for the first time in a long time. Don't betray yourself again. Because every time you go back, you don't just lose more time, you lose more trust in yourself. You start to believe you're too weak to walk away. You begin to doubt your own intuition. And worst of all, you begin to think you deserve the pain. And that's the most tragic lie the narcissist ever planted in you. But the truth is, you deserve better. You deserve love that doesn't make you decode someone's moods to feel safe. You deserve a relationship where you can be yourself without fear of punishment. You deserve to be with someone who doesn't make you walk on eggshells just to keep the peace.
You deserve peace from within. A narcissist doesn't love you. They love how it feels when you love them. They love the control. And they fear you when you no longer need them. That's why they'll do anything to pull you back. Not because they care, but because they can't stand that you chose yourself over them. But this time, hold the line. Choose the repetition of freedom, not the repetition of pain. You've come so far. Don't look back for the sake of one weak moment. You don't need a fairy tale ending with a narcissist. You need a new beginning where you are the center of your own story. No contact is not a form of revenge. It's not silent punishment. And it's certainly not a tactic to make the narcissist change. No contact is a declaration of freedom. It is the moment you stop waiting for explanations. Stop hoping for apologies. Stop longing for acknowledgement from someone you once trusted completely. It is when you realize a narcissist will never give you what you deserve because they are not capable of offering it. When you choose no contact, you're not just cutting off communication. You're cutting off the supply of power they once fed on. They no longer know what you're thinking. They don't know where you are. They can't predict your reactions. And that throws them into panic because what they crave more than love is control. They'll try everything, fake remorse, playing the victim, smearing your name, flaunting someone new, all for one reason, to get a reaction from you. Because the moment you react, whether out of anger, sadness, or even just to explain yourself, they're back in control of your emotions. But when you remain silent, when you don't respond, don't defend, don't engage you permanently, end their access to power over you. No contact forces them to confront the one truth they fear most. They're no longer important. They no longer have control. They are no longer the main character in your story. And do you know what happens then? You begin to hear your own voice again. The noise of manipulation, guilt, and chaos fades. Your mind clears. Your heart quiets. And you realize true peace doesn't come from being loved by others, but from no longer allowing yourself to be hurt. Your silence may confuse them, enrage them, terrify them. But for you, that silence becomes your rebirth. It is the sacred boundary between who you are now and the part of your past you've finally outgrown. No magic happens the moment you go. No contact. But something far more powerful begins inside you. You stop being the victim. You stop seeking validation. You become free in thought, in emotion, in your entire life. You don't owe anyone an explanation for choosing silence. You don't need permission to walk away from someone who kept hurting you. You have the right to protect your peace, and you never have to apologize for that. In the end, you are not cruel for leaving. You are brave for finally choosing yourself. If you're watching this video and you're in the midst of going, no contact, know this. You are not alone. Millions of others are quietly walking the same path. And with each passing day, you are slowly reclaiming the power you thought you'd lost forever. Keep going, keep healing, and never forget this. You deserve a love that doesn't require you to suffer in order to survive.